Hello, I'm going to try and do this video which is about OBS and YouTube and Slack, basically trying to get them all working together so we can do some streaming of lectures. I'm actually using the software OBS, which is Open Broadcaster software, to create this video, so do bear with me because I do have to do some chopping and changing while I'm doing it live. So I'll start with my presentation. What I'm going to do is swap to another camera angle. And this will look a bit confusing because you'll see the OBS in the background. But what you should see here is this is OBS, the main window, and down the bottom here is the this camera. But I'm going to go to PowerPoint now, and you should still carry on. Okay, so the first thing you need is to have a YouTube channel operating. I'm actually using the TSG one I created a long time ago, but I've also created a UCLCS Teaching account. You should still see my little camera face down here, unless I'm doing desktop. What am I doing? Yeah, I'm still doing desktop. Okay. Sometimes you have to double check what you're doing. There we go. So you need to have your YouTube channel set up. You could do with a couple of managers, especially if you're going to run the chat on YouTube. I'm not going to show that for now because what we're going to try and do is use Slack for chat instead. That can be persistent. You can manage that. Slack is a nice little simple package which you can use on mobile as well. I think one of the things about Slack that we chose was because the presenter could have Slack there and could respond to the questions whilst they were talking, rather than have to look at a YouTube channel. You've got to kind of work out what happens. You need to obviously have a TA at the remote site, so they will make sure that the video is coming up online, and have them assigned as a manager again if you're going to use YouTube chat and you want them to be moderating the Slack channel as well. You need a decent laptop with Open Broadcaster software. I'll show you that in a minute. You also need a decent webcam. 1080p webcam is ideal. Even if you're streaming at 720, it's worth having a good one because you want it to record as high resolution as you can. These are two that we're looking at the moment. C920 is the one I'm actually using right now. It's a couple of years old. There's a slightly newer version, I think, but still, it's recording high definition, which is the main thing. We're also looking at this PTZ Pro, which will allow some remote control of the positioning of the camera itself, which again could be quite handy, nice and smooth, allow us to set a wide angle and a narrow angle, and digital zoom. We're looking into those at the moment. I'll show you Open Broadcaster software briefly. That's something you need to get used to. So here we see, I'm going to make sure it's just the actual desktop only. That gets really fiddly because of course I'm broadcasting the window itself. So follow this big mouse here. You have two windows. On the left hand side you have the next scene which is coming up. Everything is about scenes. The right hand side is what's actually being transmitted now. I'm going to, for the sake of that, I'm going to actually change the left hand scene, which is not what is going out. If I did transition, which I'll do now, you should now see the full camera and the desktop has disappeared. If I go back, you'll see again that the camera is on the left hand side, desktop is on the right hand side. That's because this is the next one to go on, this one here, and that's what's actually active, including this picture. So I'm going to make that the bottom one disappear to save a bit of confusion. And transition and camera, you have to remember to change. You create a scene by adding in different elements, including a video source like this camera. I've also added a background which you can match to color in the image itself, or just a particular hex code. You can send the desktop only. So again, this window is showing the desktop only, which we're already doing. You can have a picture in the picture, which looks like this. And I'll swap back. But what I've also done, and I had started off with, was this holding page. And it's just a looping video that I downloaded from a stock site, and some text and a logo. So I'll just play that quickly. And it looks like that. what you can actually do is change things on the fly. So if I open up that in the left-hand one, I can change this text and no, not the text. You can change the text on the fly, which is quite simple. Of course, it doesn't happen. I've just done that now. Yeah, you see, that last one has disappeared. And so each of these you can change those options here. I'm going to put it back to I have to remember which one I'm doing. So that all happens here. As you can see, I've got an image there which is coming up. The text is there. I'm going to put the slap back in because that was quite useful to have that. But you can also add a couple of windows. So what I have on this scene is the desktop in this top right area, a chat window down here. It should appear down this section. Wow, this is really freaky. A piece of text in the middle, which is to say this is maybe could be the lecture title or something. On the left hand side we've got a Slack window, a Slack chat window from something that's coming up earlier. So if I go into Slack now, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it from my mobile, which will make things a little bit more interesting. You should see me adding a thing on there, providing I've actually added it on Slack. Have I added Slack on this phone? Yes, I have. And I'll come back to that. Yeah, I'll skip that. Okay, so this is OBS. You can set the streaming location under here. You can do it to YouTube. This is the key point. When you find your live key in YouTube, which is basically the address you're streaming to, you stick that in there. I'm not going to reveal it now because obviously that is used for everything. It's effectively like a password for the stream, so you don't really want to give that out. You can change the video output if you want to do something slightly lower. I'm not streaming this video because I know my connection out is really slow. I've got really bad upstream connection, whereas at UCL it's really fast and you can do 1080p. I tried it last week and it was just abysmal. So what you can do though is test the speed first. If you can get 5 meg, 6 meg, that's fine for a 1080p stream, and it just means that you don't get any buffering when it gets to YouTube. Right, what's the next thing? Let's go back to PowerPoint. Okay, so what we have to do is schedule the event on YouTube. Once you're there as a manager on the YouTube channel, there is an area called Creator Studio. You go into there's live streaming, and then there is an event. And what we're going to do is create a new event. We need to make sure that the ingestion settings, as they are the same in OBS that we see in YouTube. I'll show you that briefly, which means loading it up. YouTube. Okay, so here I am in my YouTube channel. I'm going over here and I go to Create a Studio, and there's some existing videos there. I'm going to live streaming now. I'm going to events and I'm going to schedule a new event. So I'm going to do schedule test 8434, and I'm going to schedule it for now. It's obviously ridiculous time of night. I'm going to make it unlisted. It just means that if somebody wants to view the video, they need the link, and that's the closest we can get to being private on here. We can also make it private. I'm just going to go ahead and create the event. Okay, so I need to set the ingestion settings, and this is already set up, and the stream is basically, it knows that it's getting this stream. I'm not quite sure what that is, and I'm not going to scroll any further because it's actually got the URL down there, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. I don't need to change anything here. if I wanted to do a customized thumbnail for the event itself, we can do that here. I'm not going to do that. So what I've got now is I've created the event and I can share this link here. If you look down the bottom of the screen, you can see the link is there. It's YouTube watch v equals 10p8z. Now that is the persistent link for the video itself. So I'm going to share that now on Slack. If I can go find where I would put my Slack. There we are. I'm going to put it here. Here's the next video. And sure enough, you can see it appears in there. Now that's got a kind of holding page. So if you click on there, it will say this event has not started. There we are. Well, that's nice. So that's cool. I'm going to mute that one as well, just in case it causes problems later. I'm anticipating that. I'm going to save those changes. I don't need to do anything more on that now. If I was ready to go live, I would go into the live control room. And it's useful to do that because you can see it says we're not receiving data from your encoder. Please make sure it's configured correctly in the ingestion settings page. We can see here a preview of what is going to come out once it starts to go live, and the public view, what they will see. And here you can see there's a chat window. This can pop out, but at the moment I'm not going to use that. We may come to it if Slack is not very good, but we just have to see about that. So let me check what I need to do now. So we put all those details on there. So we give it a title, date, description, everything else like that. We've shared the URL, we've put it on Moodle, we've put it on the Slack. So we're now ready to go. This is the broadcast setup. So for the lecture theatre where the presenter is going to be, we want the camera kind of on the left hand side because the presenter is usually going to be walking over to the right hand side as we look at it to do his change of slides, things like that, or maybe even using the whiteboard, I don't know. So we want the camera pointing towards them and the screen to capture everything. Now if we got the slides in advance, we can maybe get a bit clever and we can send them along with broadcast, which is what I'm doing now. But for the most part, I think what we're trying to do is string the broadcast itself. So we're just going to have a static camera there and maybe the chat window in the corner, depending on what the lecturer prefers. So before we begin the broadcast, we've got YouTube ready. We want to check the scenes are okay in OBS. I'm using this holding video to start, as I said earlier. It just means that they've got something to look at before the lecture starts, so they know it's not broken or anything else like that. Then we go into OBS to start the streaming. And then again, we go into YouTube to the live control room, check that stream is working. It will say stream is healthy, 1080p. And then we want to verify with the second site that they can view it. We've given them the link. All they have to do is load that up in YouTube, and that should be fine. We want to present as normal as you do. Decide what you're doing with the slides. Maybe if you've got a student doing the work, agree with them beforehand. You can do the slides like this with the camera angle shorter and trust them to swap it over. What we don't want to do is have the student doing too much work because, of course, they're trying to view the lecture themselves. But if you've got a TA doing that work, then again they can make that choice. And I think that'll become quite natural to work out when you want to focus on the speaker and when you want to focus on the slides and the whiteboard or whatever else like that. Once you've completed the broadcast, you want to stop it in YouTube and stop it in streaming in OBS. And then you can add titles, cards, links in the description, things like that. Okay, so let's go back to, do we need to go to OBS? No, I've shown that bit. I'm just going to go to the website of OBS so you can have a look for it. And I'm going to do this so it's only desktop. Transition. Okay, so this is Open Broadcaster software. It's a, don't know what the studio stands for, maybe there was a different version. Lots of features, real-time transmitting like this, You can send it to YouTube or Twitch or even Facebook Live, and some other ones as well, which I've never even heard of. It's available for Linux and Mac and Windows, so yeah, any kind of application, any kind of desktop you're using. So let's briefly look at YouTube then. So we're ready to broadcast. We've got our laptop set up. I'm just going to go back to that. Transition. So we are ready to broadcast. I'm going to go into YouTube, and this is the event I've set up. Is that right? Schedule test. Okay, so we're not receiving data from our encoder. Please make sure it's configured correctly in ingestion settings page. That's fine. I am actually going to start streaming briefly. I'll click on that, and you would see this would appear there. I'm not going to show it right now because I think I've got a sample video, so I'm just going to show some videos of what happens when we've done a live stream. It will become obvious. To do this, one thing you need to be careful with, and I'm going to go to the camera for that. One thing you want to be careful with is if you're playing audio, if you're playing a video for some reason, as I'm about to, and what I'm doing is slightly more fiddly because I'm not doing a normal stream. I'm actually going to show a video that I've already played. So what I need to do is actually mute my mic because I want it to not play through the speakers so we can hear it, but also not do a feedback. You get some weird feedback echoes if you're not careful. So in a minute I'm going to mute the mic and play the video. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I think it was this one here. And I'm going to go back to...
So we've just played out that downstairs, scheduled a live stream, and then practice. And it wasn't so bad. So I'm going to now look at what was left of the live stream shown on my desktop. Transition that. Oh, you've seen that anyway.
Sorry, I should explain. So what you're seeing now is my recording from before of a lecture we did. Yeah, so when I flick back to the desktop and I turn off this mic, you should be able to hear it. Okay?
I got that wrong, didn't I? So this is what the users would see at the start of the lecture theatre. We can zoom that, see what it looks like full screen. Of course, the lecture's finished. Let's scroll to where we were talking. Here we go. It's Dennis talking. What else can we go to? What we also did was to sort of to show what it looked like if you're using a laptop to display your PowerPoint slides or something else, and then talking at the same time. I'll turn the sound off here, but let's see what it sounds like. It will broadcast in the other one. So this is an example of how, if we're doing it on a remote site that hasn't got any kind of desktop, I'll turn that off again. We can use the yeah, so full screen, the resolution is good enough. Let's go back to where we were here. Think about socket. But also, if you demonstrate an application or a bit of code, you can see the resolution is quite reasonable for that. What I was wanting to do here was to change back to a full screen with me talking as if I was in a remote site. Again, resolution isn't terrible. We could zoom in, could bring the camera a bit closer if we were just viewing somebody and they weren't going to walk very far.
Okay, so that wasn't terrible. I'm going to go back to the camera again. So yeah, you can see the camera again. So that's pretty much it. Lastly, I'll just show you the Slack channel again. Let's do that view. So here we can see the Slack channel on the left, which is showing the previous video that I did. It says it's going to start in 33 minutes, which of course it's not. I'm not going to stream live from here, as I explained. And the top there we've got the desktop, down here we've got the camera, and here we've got this text. So really it's a nice simple setup. You do have to get used to the software first, but again, that doesn't take long. It took me about half a day really to get used to the fundamentals of YouTube and OBS. And now that I've kind of worked through it and given the instructions, it is nice and simple. So the only things you really need to think about are how you're presenting, making sure that you are speaking to the audience, that you're making sure that if they're asking you a question in the live audience, in the first lecture theatre, you're repeating it back to the microphone nicely and clearly so that the viewers at the other end can hear that. And yeah, if you've got a TA helping you with you, they can help manage the angles. If you want to have your Slack window to keep track of the chat, or if you want to have a TA to just nudge you every now and again to repeat a question, it's up to your kind of style. But the OBS is quite flexible, so that if you do want to record something in advance, like I'm doing so now, you can do. If you want to stream live and have that kind of chat window open and send your slides, you've got that option. It is really a nice piece of software, and we're hoping to do some quite good things with it. And with that, I'm going to head back to the holding page. Thank you for listening.